Hey everyone, welcome back. So we've been really busy on the farmstead here, and it's the time of year where we now have pears ready. They're really late this season. Usually we have them by first part of July to middle of July. This year, we're already into September and our pears are just starting to come on. So yesterday, I was so pleased to be able to have help out on the farm. One of the girls' skating friends came over and she's learning a lot about different things that you can do on the farm to take care of chickens or vegetables. And she came over to actually help me pick the pears from one of our prolific producing pear trees. And I think yesterday we must have picked somewhere around 200 pounds of pears. Yes, 200 pounds of pears. So as you can imagine, I've got pears coming out of my ears. There's lots of different things that you can do with pears aside from making and using them in desserts and eating them fresh. Today, I'm going to teach you one method of preservation for pears, and that is to learn how to can pears in a simple syrup. It's one way to maintain that fresh pear taste all year round, and it's one great way to utilize a lot of pears all at one time. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get started. Okay, so before I start chopping away at my whole bushel of firm, ripe pears, I'm going to go ahead and do some preparation. And the first thing that I want to do is I want to add a quarter cup of lemon juice to 4 cups of water. And this is going to create a mixture that when I chop my pears, I can put the pieces that I'm keeping for preservation into this juice to keep them from browning, to keep them from essentially turning dark. I want them to keep their nice cream colored pear color to them and last that way through the whole canning and preservation process. The other thing that I'm going to do to prepare myself is I'm going to prepare my cutting surface. When you're working with pears, they're pretty slippery, they're pretty slimy. You'll find that you're probably going to be wanting to wash your hands a lot. And to help keep my cutting board from slipping, I'm simply going to use a piece of paper towel. I have just run this under water to get it nice and damp. I'm going to lay that down and then I'm going to put my cutting mat right on top of that. And that's going to keep my cutting mat from slipping back and forth as I'm dealing with the slippery pears and some of the juices and liquid that might come out as I'm cutting them. So once you have the majority of your workstation set up, you're going to work in batches to prepare your pears. And so in this case, the first part of the batching that I'm going to do is to peel my fruit. And so I'll peel my fruit, get a couple of them ready to go, chop them, place them in the lemon juice and water mixture, and then go back and do another batch and keep repeating until I've gotten through roughly 8 to 9 pounds worth of pears. So again, important to make sure that your fruit is ripe, but make sure that it's still firm. Now, if it's not firm, if it's really ripe and fresh, you can go ahead and peel these by hand. You can use a potato peeler or you can use a paring knife and scrape that peel off. Because my pears, I've been able to stage and make sure that they are just the appropriate level of ripeness and firmness that I desire. I'm going to use an electronic peeler that I have. This is something I'm not sponsored by. It's called a Rotato Express. I found it on Amazon. It was roughly about 20 bucks. And I've had this for years. And it seems to be a helpful tool in my kitchen, which is why it's stuck around. I use this tool to peel pears. I use it to peel apples. I use it to peel potatoes. And so it's really helpful, especially when I'm cooking for a crowd. And all you do is you place your fruit onto the prongs that are at the bottom. And then you put your cutting blade, you maneuver that down right to the top portion of the fruit, and then you secure it in with the top prong. And you push the button, and the peel comes out. Just like this, and you know me, I'm going to save all of this strand of peel for my chickens who are going to be quite happy to enjoy this. You can then, once it's finished peeling, remove your fruit from the peeler, and then you can cut away any of the top skin or the bottom skin as you're removing out the core. Now, when you're working with the pear, you're going to go ahead and remove off the top stem. I like to actually cut the tip of the peel from the electronic peeler off and the bottom. And then you want to go ahead and remove out the core. There's two ways to do this. Actually, there's probably more than two ways. But how I like to do it is I like to cut the pear in half. And then I have a tool that I use. It's called a pear coring tool or a fruit coring tool. You can actually use this for strawberries or other types of fruits with cores. And it's got a little curved edge to it. You can see the little edge right here. I'm going to stick this on the pear just behind where the core is at. And I'm going to put my thumb at the bottom of the pear and I'm going to maneuver it through to be able to cut just behind where that core is at. Again, that core is going to go to my chickens and I'm left with a beautiful pear half. Now, I find that halves of pears don't stack in jars as well as quarters do. So I'm just going to quarter this pear and I'm going to put these quarter cuts right into my prepared solution to keep them from turning dark. And again, I'm going to do the same thing here. Now, if you run across a pear and it has a bad spot, this is also a great way to take the time to clean up that pear, cut any of those bad spots away. And I'm going to keep repeating this process of peeling and preparing my fruit until I've gotten through my entire batch of approximately 8 to 9 pounds today. Now, in the event you didn't have one of those cool peeler tools like I have, or a cool pear coring tool like I have, there's a simple way that you can prepare your pears using just a kitchen knife. You're simply going to run your knife along the edge of the pear, and that'll just guide you to take that peel off. And you see it gets a good portion of the peel at once. Again, you can use a potato peeler for this, but if you didn't have one of those, good old knife works just fine. Or if your pears are a little bit too ripe to run through an automatic peeler, this works good too. Take your top off the pear, cut off the bottom, cut your pear in half, cut your pear in quarters, and then you simply take your knife right along the wedge of that corner and you can take the core out. And that gets you your quarter of your pear. So just another way to do that. All right, so once you've got your pears prepared and soaking in your citric acid or lemon juice and water combination, I find lemon juice and water is the easiest. You can then go ahead and prepare your simple syrup. Now, I'm going to make a light simple syrup. Some simple syrups are medium or heavy, and the way that they judge them is by how much sugar to water ratio you have. So for a light simple syrup, you're going to add 5 1/4 cups of water to a large saucepan. And then to that 5 1/4 cups of water, you're going to add 2 1/4 cups of sugar. Go ahead and heat this on medium heat, stirring until the sugar has fully dissolved. Once your sugar has dissolved, you'll notice your mixture is nice and clear. You're going to reduce your heat down to medium low, and you're going to work in batches to transfer a single layer of prepared pears into that simple syrup mixture. Now these are going to stay in here for 5 minutes. And the heated simple syrup mixture, what it's going to do is it's going to release any of the air from inside the pears. And this is going to help you later in your canning process. All right, we've got a good single layer going on there. We're going to set the clock for 5 minutes and then we'll come back to this mixture. Once your pears have been in the hot syrupy mixture for 5 minutes, you're then going to go ahead and access one of your hot sterilized jars. And you're ready to go ahead and begin packing that jar. So I use the method of keeping my jars in a 225-degree oven to keep them hot after they've been washed and sterilized. And that simply just helps me relax a little bit so I'm not having to work so quickly when I'm trying to prepare any of my hot mixtures. So I've got my hot jar here. I'm going to put a funnel to it, and then I'm going to use a slotted spoon to access my pears, and that's because I want the liquid to drain off of them so that I can pack them tightly in the jar. So I'll take my slotted spoon and put my quartered pears right in through the funnel. Using the funnel for this step also helps to keep the rim of the jar as clean as possible so that when I do put a lid on it, I can ensure the best and tightest seal. Of course, I will go ahead and wipe the rim with a damp paper towel just to make sure it's good and clean. And I'll just work in batches until I fill this jar nice and tight. You will want to stop periodically and use your tongs to shake that jar down and ensure that you're getting as tight a pack as possible, and then keep going until you have that jar full. And you'll see that if you cover one layer deep in a saucepan with the syrup, it's actually quite perfect for filling up 1 quart size jar. And I'll carefully pack these down in. Yes, they will all fit. And then I'm simply going to add to this, using a ladle, I'm going to fill the rest of the jar up with the simple syrup. I'm going to leave a 1/2 inch headspace at the top. Now, what does that mean? 1/2 inch headspace basically means from the top of the rim of the jar, I'm going to only fill it to about 1/2 inch below. So the nice thing about where my funnel sits is it does sit about 1/2 inch deep. So I'm going to fill the jar to the bottom of the funnel. And I'm going to give it a little bit of a shake and a good tap just to try to release any of the air bubbles that might be coming up packed from underneath the pears. And then last but not least, you may have noticed this small pot I have back here. In this small pot, I have it over the flame, and I've got water in this pot keeping the lids to the canning jars clean. So I'm going to take a damp paper towel. I'm going to wipe off the rim of this jar just to make sure there's nothing on it so that I can get a proper seal with the lid. And then I'm going to take my lid using a magnetic tool out of the hot water. I'm going to put it right on top of this hot jar with the hot pears and the syrup. And then I'm going to grab its ring. And And I'm going to very carefully, because this is all hot, tighten down, finger tight, the ring onto this jar. And now this jar is ready to go into a water bath. I'll prepare the rest of my jars and then put them all in the water bath at the same time. So now that my jars have been packed and I've placed the lids and rings on them, I'm going to stick them in the water bath. They're going to go in and sit in this water bath for 25 minutes for quart size, which is what I'm processing today. If you're doing pints, it's only going to be 20 minutes. And then once the time has passed, I'll pull them out of the water bath and wait for the lids to pop. All right, my 25 minutes passed. I pulled these out of the water bath and they're just gonna sit right here until they seal. And once they seal, they're gonna go ahead and go into my pantry for us to enjoy this whole next year through. Hope you enjoyed learning how to make this recipe. Please see the description for some variations that you can do with the simple syrup, such as adding cinnamon sticks to give it a little bit of a different flavor. If you liked it, go ahead and hit the like button, share with your friends, subscribe to my channel for more. We'll see you next time. Bye-bye.